Hello, welcome to another episode of the Awaken Podcast. I am Francis Famadu.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Bolden. We're so excited you're tuning in so we can share our journey with you to hopefully help guide you, inspire you, and motivate you through yours. Francis, how you doing? What's your little life update for us this week?
I'm doing well, Tracy. You asking like real nice. That was a good transition. I appreciate how you asked.
Yes.
I am doing well. It's been a great couple of days it's been a great couple of days for me to grow. It's been a great couple of days for me to get deep within myself, figure out where I want to be, align my motivations and goals, and really understand that through ups and downs in life, I am able to get through it because I'm a bad motherfucker and meditation is a thing. And I thank God for the opportunity to just grow, just really go through things and just keep pushing forward head on. And it's an ability I am very appreciative of. So just to know we can evolve and get better as we keep going, keep stacking up our abilities. It's it's a beautiful experience. But outside of that, it's been great. What about you, Miss Tracy?
Nice.
I think I heard you just had a birthday.
I did last week, turned 28, kind of just like a stale number. I'm like, okay, kind of close to 30, but not close enough to be like, oh my gosh, 30, but also like still feeling young. So it was a good little 28th birthday. Went out to a little concert, hung out with some friends, went to Beverly Hills, had a little nice cocktail moment. I know, it was nice. So yeah, it was really fun. Yes, I had a good time. Last year, we had just moved here and so didn't know anybody, like didn't really know what to do. So just thinking about like from last year to this year, how much like I have really put in a lot of effort to like plant some roots and form some really genuine friendships and have actual plans on my birthday. So it was really fun. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a good little turn up / wholesome weekend. It was a good little balance. I had a lot of fun. It was a good birthday.
What is it like living through last year versus this year?
Like birthday wise or just a year?
Just to see the changes from your birthday last year from this year. Like, what is it like to actually experience it and see like how different it is compared to last time?
Yeah, I feel like I have grown so much this past year, and I feel like I have put a lot of focus on building connections here, like not just, both professional and personal connections. So, whenever I first moved here, I was obviously looking for a friend group because I have an amazing friend group in Texas. So I was really, really wanting that here. And I found Girl Power LA. I went to the little event, which I talked about Girl Power on here before, but our whole mission of Girl Power is helping build community through professional and personal development. And so just the women that I have met through there and the events that we've done and the connections I've made has been really, really amazing. And I feel like I've met a lot of girls and gotten really close, but I feel like these past couple months, I've really been honing in on like making super deep connections with just a handful of girls that I've met. So just feeling really empowered by my community here, feeling really connected by my community as far as like if I need help or guidance, like I have amazing women here who support me and want to see me be successful. So that has been really, really amazing to see myself grow in that way. And then of course with my career, like I've been, doing the same thing for a bunch of years now. So just like you said before, of just like, it's been a year of just stacking more skills and developing my abilities and growing my knowledge for what I'm doing. So I feel like it's just been a year of a lot of growth. Of course, there's been ups and downs, which we've talked about before, of just like the friends and family that haven't been really supportive, having to maintain my boundaries with them and always keeping them in their place in my life that's healthy for both of us. So those have been some challenges over the past year, but in comparison to everything that I've gained and all the ways that I've grown, it's been really great. I can't wait to see what this next year does for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's the beauty of like looking back and seeing the change. You're able to say like, wow, it's been a fantastic one.
Mm-hmm.
And now I get to go do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Now I
Yes,
get
and
to
even
go try
better,
again
and even
and keep,
harder.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's good. No, I appreciate you sharing, and I'm glad it's been great for you so far.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. I love it. And I think our topic today kind of goes into a lot of what is being required of you right now in your life and what has been required of me the past year in my life. So today we want to talk a little bit about motivation slash and self-discipline.
Mm, mm.
I feel like I like this topic because I feel like I get asked a lot, like, oh my gosh, how do you stay so motivated? Like, how do you stay so positive? How do you just like stay on your shit? And I'm like, you guys think I'm on my shit? Okay,
Ah,
I
nice.
got that.
I feel
So
completely opposite.
right, right. So, but I definitely have over the years, and especially I feel like these skills, like having motivation, creating motivation for myself, and then having self discipline when I don't feel that motivation, I actually feel like I developed a lot the year before we moved here because
Right.
I had to do so much preparation and mentally, financially, physically to be able to get here. So these are, two skills that I feel like I have always learning, but I feel like I've really, really mastered over the past like 2 years of my life.
For
But
sure. For
tell
sure.
me, tell me about your relationship with motivation, self-discipline.
I do love motivation and self-discipline a lot. It's very important in the entrepreneurial and videography creative world. I will say I loved my motivation in the beginning because I was able to learn and put a lot of repetitions towards what I was doing and what I was building. And it was very effective to get me where I needed to be. And then towards the tail end of that, it started feeling a little more toxic. And I was just doing everything based off of motivation and not being disciplined or dedicated to certain aspects that needed to be handled and needed to be certainly aligned with what I was doing. So that's where my self discipline started coming in. And self discipline wasn't so hard to figure out. It really just comes down to execution. But when it comes to self discipline, I just set a standard, started setting standards for my days. You have to do these things no matter what. When
Mm-hmm.
the motivation is gone, essentially I'm just building habits that I stick with. That way, when I'm not motivated, it's like, okay, this is still my life. Doing the things that are going to help my business, my mindset, my life are still going to put me in a better headspace than if I stop doing things completely. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
motivated, I was able to create systems that I knew I could stick to, that I knew I could
Mm-hmm.
complete.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when I'm feeling down or feeling dull, I know exactly what I can do to make myself feel better. It's like,
Yes.
okay, I'm feeling down. I'm going through something right now. What are those 5 things we told ourselves we would do? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
boom, 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 boom. Now all of a sudden, a month of being down turns into like 3 days because I'm actively building into myself and really just sticking to it. And self discipline has actually helped that aspect of motivation. Motivation now is great because I have built my self discipline base that when I do get motivated, I'm able to create without having any bad feelings towards it because again that self-discipline base is already there and always getting
Mm-hmm.
completed. So I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Motivation is great, but I got this from you. You'd never want to make decisions when you're motivated because your mind is in such a state that it doesn't even understand, like, oh, you're just really excited. You're not really committed to this. You're not
Mm-hmm.
really ready to execute this strategy.
Yes.
You just see the end goal without looking at the base level of things or the
And what it's
structure
gonna
of it.
take to get there.
Exactly. So um I'm glad that motivation helped me when it was kind of sporadic and crazy. But then once things started slowing down, I saw myself understanding that motivation wasn't enough and the self-discipline part needed to kick in.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes to all of that. I think motivation comes first, and that can be used as a great tool to inspire us and help us recognize and be self-aware of the things we're excited about and the things we want to work towards. But yes, exactly like you said, of just being really aware of like, okay, this is a brand new idea. This is a new thing I want to do. I'm feeling really inspired, but let me stop, calm myself down a little bit and think about, the steps that it's going to take to get there. And am I willing to use discipline when this motivation goes away to follow through with these things?
Right.
And I think something that you kind of said, and it just reminded me of this, of like, motivation, if we're only relying on motivation, can get really toxic, because if we are only getting motivated about a new idea or a new thing and a new goal, it can be really, really difficult to stay in alignment to your journey and in alignment to what you really want, rather than just feeling excited about these bunch of different things. And I think that's when we can get into a negative cycle of chasing motivation, when really we need to sit the fuck down and double down on our discipline that we know that we need to do, rather than just chasing the next thing that's exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, it's a great thing you say that too. It's like I had to get to a point where when I was motivated, I had to turn it off, because it just wasn't where we were in the journey. Being creative, I get a lot of ideas on what to film, and I get let down a lot too sometimes, because I just know if I execute it, it's not going to be the way I'm really imagining it. Like, I'm glad I took the swing, but at the end of the day, it's like you have a stack of other things you have to do. And now you compromised your piece of structure because you wanted to be motivated, and now it's not even what you wanted, and now everything's all fucked up.
Yes.
So
and all that energy that you could have spent with your motivation, you could have spent on the self-discipline of getting farther in the goal that you really want to get farther on. Yeah.
No, I will say I had one good experience with motivation recently, but I added dedication to it, right? So when I am motivated, I am trying to make something I'm trying to make the process as simple as possible. For myself today, I was like, okay, if this spot you want to film at isn't open, you're going to find another spot you can film at. If that spot's not open, you're going to make this video no matter what.
Right. You're going to figure it out.
Would be like, oh, I can't film here, I'm going home. And now all of a sudden everything's fucked up. So I ended up using that process, and the project I made was really badass. And I was very happy about it. And I was like, damn, this is probably the most cool video I've made of myself in a long time. And that's where motivation works, because I added that dedication, self-discipline to it.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me, was this a video you just recently posted of you meditating outside?
Yes.
Shut up. I loved that video. So that's so funny that that's what you're bringing up. I love that video that you posted. So serene, so cool. The lighting looked amazing. The song choice, amazing.
I was very happy about it.
And I feel like that's another thing too, is like, truly, whenever you, like I said, decide to like double down on your motivation and double down on your self-discipline, like really the things that you want to see happen are going to come in fruition, if not as good as you wanted it, but if not even better, because you decided to be dedicated and you decided to persevere and push through and get things done. And like, I teach self-discipline to my kids all the time when they're learning basic self-care, like basic hygiene, basic mindset. And at the end of the day, discipline is just doing things that you need to do, even if it's not fun, even if it's not easy. Right. And I think that's where we get stuck, is something stops being fun, i.e. we lose the motivation, or it's not easy, i.e. we just have to say, this is not fun, this is not easy, but XYZ is why I need to follow through, and I need to do it. And when we show up for ourselves like that, and when we follow through with commitments, it feels so good. It turns out so good. So I love that that's what you brought up. That's so funny that's what you're talking about.
Man, let me tell you, because it's funny that because I was so dedicated, I was able to make the video I wanted to make, because if I made that video anywhere else, it wouldn't have looked as good. It wouldn't have made as much sense, because I had other scenes from another day that I went out that still fit in those moments. So like
Mhm.
I was just like, man, this really worked out the way it needed to. Uh,
Perfect. I
but
love
yeah,
it. I love
when
it.
motivation can work, you have to be dedicated with it as well. Like
Yeah.
motivated to do something. I started telling people to write it out and meditate on it, think
Mhm.
on it. Don't
Mhm.
necessarily make the move, but use the energy to figure out what it takes to be that person or that goal you want to be, opposed to just going and then falling short because
Mhm.
you had no idea what you were doing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So when do you feel like motivation is like, tell me when you feel like motivation is easy. Like, when is it really easy to feel super motivated? And, to define motivation, I don't think we've talked about that either, but, essentially, like, feeling motivated is having a drive to do something, having a desire to go towards a goal or take action or do a certain behavior. So tell me, when is it easy? I always just like say, like, you feel pumped up to do something, like you feel like you're ready to go after it. When does that feeling come up really easily for you? I'm sure like
Um,
anything creative, period.
Sometimes when it is creative, I get in the window of comparison. So it's not necessarily creative, but when I'm super motivated is when I see people that are in shape and like when people are like in shape and just really muscular, I feel like I could be doing more. So
Mhm,
I'll start
mhm,
working out right then and there. Luckily, I have dedication to fitness where I will go to the gym as well. But there has been times in my past where I would work out, tell myself I'm gonna work out, tell myself I'm gonna do XYZ, and just like lay down the next day. And I'm like, oh shoot, I was really committed in the moment to be fit again. And I just wasn't really putting structure towards what I was doing. But now when I'm motivated, I'm able to see that I'm motivated, but luckily I still have the structure set up appropriately. So now
mhm,
it's just an addition to my structure, which is really good when it comes to fitness. I can work out, get a really great workout during the day. Now when I get motivated, I can get extra work on top of that to just add to my fuel, add to my
mhm,
fire. But I will say it's very sensory, my motivation. It's very, oh, I see something, super motivated to do it. And that can turn into me not being as committed as I could be because I just saw this thing and don't know what it takes. Or it can turn into what I've been facing more recently is, okay, you're motivated about this thing. Don't make the decision to do this thing right now.
mhm.
Like, what are we doing?
Think
What are we
on it
about to get?
just a second.
Yeah.
Put yourself
What are
on a
we?
pause.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just a journey you have to go through, but sensory for sure is where I get motivated the most. What about
Yes.
you? When do you get motivated?
100% agree. Like, I definitely feel motivated with like more my environment. Like, whenever I feel inspired by someone else or inspired by, just the environment that I'm in. That's why, I love our girl power events because they're so just inspirational. Like whether it's a professional development workshop or whether it's like, personal development, like forming relationships and forming connections, like every time I leave from being in an environment with women who are like-minded, I'm always leaving like feeling so motivated to reach out to girls to make more plans, or feeling so motivated to, write on my to-do list what I'm going to do next week for work of how I can implement those things that I learned in those workshops. So definitely external motivation or external factors for sure help inspire me to stay motivated. And I know we've talked about this before a little bit, but something that really helps me stay motivated is making like Pinterest boards. And
Mm,
obviously, we all know this, but following people who make you feel inspired. So opening up,
right.
your Instagram or your social media as your TikTok and seeing people that like, oh, wow, this person's out here making money, or this person's out here, creating connections. This person's out here working on their body. Like, I want to get that too. That's inspiring to me. So I definitely have created tools for myself to keep myself motivated, but really just my environment really has an impact on my motivation.
That's what's up.
I think too, anything that feels fresh and anything that feels new, I think is also too motivating for a lot of people. Like you feel inspired by somebody doing something different that you've never seen. But I like what you said as far as like, okay, yes, I want to take this motivation and I want to use it to reflect on like what about this is motivating to me. But I really like that you said, but let me stop and look at the things that it takes to get there. Because if you're feeling motivated, that's awesome. But when it's not fresh, when it's not new anymore, and the motivation is starting to fall off. If you haven't really thought about and you haven't stopped to think if you're willing enough to do the rest of the steps when it comes to the discipline, that's where like you really fuck yourself, honestly.
Yeah.
So tell me, for you, when is motivation hard for you? So whenever you don't have as much like environment, or you don't have like that much like outward inspiration to fuel that motivation.
Motivation is hard when you feel like you're not getting the results you think you're supposed to be getting, right? So if things are moving a little slow, if things are business wise, I'll say, if things are moving a little slow, I'm not going out and shooting and filming people as much as possible like I used to. I start thinking like, oh man, I'm failing. I'm not doing enough. I'm not where I should be. What's the point type vibes. So when that happens, I do get more dedicated to creativity. So that helps. But yeah, that's when my motivation is really low. It's like, oh shoot, there's nothing pushing me to get out there right now. Now, like, my phones aren't ringing like they usually do. And I'll say that's when motivation is at its worst, because it's just in a place where your efforts aren't, if you feel like your efforts aren't meaning anything.
Yes.
And shoot, it's probably a point where I subconsciously want to say, what's the point? No one's calling my phone. Like, I'm just going to lay down today, So you just have to be super aware during those moments for sure. But when you're not getting results, I'll say is when motivation's at its lowest.
Yes, I totally agree that like not getting the results is like the biggest piece. I feel like also too that kills my motivation. And exactly like you said, of like, especially too, whenever you're very committed to your journey and you have a very clear vision for your journey, but your vision is 2-3 years down the line of where you want to be, that whenever you're in the thick of it and you're not seeing those results, I feel like, yes, that's when the motivation starts to definitely go down, because it feels like I'm putting in all this work, I'm putting in all this effort, and I'm just not seeing the results yet. But it's hard because you see the results for yourself. Like if you really trust and believe and love your journey, you're going to keep your head down and you're going to stay disciplined to it. But it's so hard when that vision is years down the line and and you can see how much work you still have to do. I feel like that's when the motivation really starts to take a little downturn. Right. With that, that's when the stress happens. And then of course, if we don't figure out ways to honestly create motivation for ourselves, that's when the burnout can happen. And that's when, we start to give up altogether, or we start to seek out different things that are motivating but aren't in alignment to what our journey is, just to get that good feeling, just to try to escape that stress and escape that burnout. So I kind of want to lead that into, some ways. Well, actually, maybe before we even talk about that, maybe let's talk about where that transition happens. Like, how do you know you're transitioning from motivation to discipline? Like what needs, or what usually happens whenever you recognize like, okay, the motivation isn't there, I need to double down on my self-discipline?
So when the motivation isn't there, it really just comes down to, like you said before, just doing the things you have to do, whether you get the results you think you're going to get or feel the way you think you want to feel afterwards. It's just okay, this is what I need to do. This is what's going to get done. And I know I'll be better at some point knowing I kept this routine going, opposed to not doing it and just letting everything crumble because I'm not
Yes.
motivated at the moment. That's just not what being great is about. And the best people in whatever position or field in the world aren't lacking or aren't stopping their journey because they're not motivated. The greatest athletes in the world, right? For example, they're not trying to stop. They're not going to stop being the best because there's a morning where they don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. There's probably a million mornings where they say, I don't want to wake up and go, I fuck a ring, fuck a championship.
Literally.
I'd
Yeah.
like this bed right now. But since they're so dedicated to their goal, when they're not motivated, it kind of doesn't even matter because they've done it so much. They've created a habit to ignore their motivation at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think psychopath is a strong word, but I feel like you have to become a psychopath in order to keep doing things.
A psychopath to your goals.
I think that's the most, because that's just it's crazy. It's crazy to do things without a result or
Yeah.
without feeling the way you want to feel,
Yeah.
without the certainty of getting to your goal. It's
Yes.
crazy,
Yeah.
it's a little crazy, but that's how you have to be to navigate through it. You have to understand and have faith down the road. It's going to add in, it's going to add up. And when you're not motivated, you tell yourself motivation isn't going to get me to my goal. Being faithful that what I do today is going to add up to tomorrow, is going to add up to next month, so
Yeah.
on and so forth, is where you need to understand where motivation dwindles, the faith in your journey starts growing more and more. And
Yeah.
from there, you get to where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely too. And I think, it's hard. I think whenever that motivation starts, whenever you have to have that transition from motivation to discipline is when it comes to the shit that you don't want to do.
Right.
And again, that stuff that just isn't fun and it isn't easy and it's just, you don't feel happy, you don't feel excited. It's, like pushing it off and pushing it off until you absolutely have to do it. Like regardless of how you get it done or how long it takes you, like that's where the discipline has to come in. But I
Right.
think that there's also a big piece of, I think a lot of people think that motivation is just that pumped up feeling and is just like feeling excited, enthusiastic, but that's just honestly not true. And when I tell a lot of clients this, they are very, very confused because they're like, well, that's what motivation is. Like, I want to feel like doing it. When motivation in itself is just having a reason why you need to do something. So, like,
Mhm.
I'm obviously not going to feel motivated to clean my house every Sunday, do my Sunday reset where I do all the laundry and I clean the house and I take all the trash out, all that shit that nobody wants to do. But it is setting me up for success for the week. I know I'm going to wake up on Monday, see an empty laundry basket, feel refreshed, walk into my clean kitchen, feel good, walk outside to my like living room that's like vibey, you know what I mean? And so you don't necessarily have to feel excited and you don't have to feel enthusiastic to do something, but figure out a reason why you need to do that thing is. So, I like don't feel excited to clean my house on Sunday, but I deserve to live in a clean environment and I deserve to set
Mhm.
myself up for success Monday morning. That's a little motivating. Like that's a way you can bring little pieces of motivation of just what we were saying before, making the effort worth it. Like figure out how to tell yourself that whether this is compounding today, tomorrow, next year of getting these results, or whether that's, immediately after of these results. Like, why am I doing this thing? Why is this action going to better me and better myself and better my life in some kind of way? And then having that discipline to say it's not always fun, it's not always easy, but I'm going to do it because of that why. So I
Right.
think creating like a powerful why for anything you do can bring that motivation to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me too, maybe like So for me, I guess like let's maybe share like a couple tips and tricks of how we stay motivated on our journey, how we stay disciplined on our journey. You can go first, or I can go first. You tell me. I got some
I can go
goodies.
first. I
Okay, go
got
first.
how to stay motivated on our and self-disciplined on our journeys.
Yeah.
I think it honestly falls in the line of what you were saying, having the why out there. I would say my why is usually more subconscious,
Hmm.
and I don't think it's as upfront. I kind of just know this is going. Like, I don't do things for no reason. It's like I know this is going to add up. I'm not doing this because I know exactly what it's going to add up to, or I know exactly what I'm going to get out of it. I just know it's going to be beneficial to build a certain positive habit or to stick with a certain routine because that's what all the successful people in the world say they do.
Hmm.
Every day I wake up and do this, do that, do it. It's like, oh, that's what you do. I guess I'll do it because that's what successful people do.
Hmm.
Not necessarily, I guess at the end of the day, I'll be successful. So,
Hmm.
it's just really about getting structure, that in itself can be the motivation or the dedication to stick with it.
Hmm.
When you live a life of being able to procrastinate and succeed, when you live a life where winging it has always been a great time, where you can just live off of your talent, you get to a point where things start slowing down and you say, oh, everything I've been getting away with is not enough anymore.
Hmm.
I need to do the little things. I need to get more dedicated because my talent, yes, is cool, but it's not going to transfer over to real success if I'm not dedicated to the craft or mastering what I'm doing. So what keeps me going is just knowing that I'm in a place where I'm the hero of my journey. I'm not as strong as I want to be. I'm not as smart as I want to be. I'm not as fast or as quick to certain ideas as I want to be. But I know I'm working towards it. I know I'm
Hmm.
going to get there.
Yeah.
Just because I'm here at this point doesn't mean I have to stay here. So what are
Mhm.
we going to do? We're going to learn how to be more structured. We're going to
Yeah.
learn new skill sets. We're going to keep going when we don't feel like going. By the
Hmm.
time and then by the time, you know, whatever time window, you can look back and say, man, I really busted my ass to get here because I did everything I needed to do to get to this point. And
Hmm.
now I'm reaping the benefits because I didn't see these benefits when I was down, but I
Yeah.
knew I knew I was going to get to something. I knew I was adding to something while staying true to the journey. So I'll
Hmm.
say that much is just knowing knowing what you're doing is going to add up to something. Like
Hmm.
everything matters. Everything gets counted.
Hmm.
Taking the day off matters,
Hmm.
or working that day matters. It
Hmm.
just depends on the where it's going to position yourself on the scale for the day, essentially.
So really like essentially just putting all the trust and all the faith in the process that it's like I'm
Yeah,
not seeing the results right now, but I know they're going to come if I just continue to keep these commitments to myself and I just
exactly.
do the plan that I said I'm going to do. Yeah.
It's basic knowledge, it's though you don't see it in the moment, you're not going to look back when the time comes and say, I wish I didn't spend all that time trying to be better.
Mhm.
Like there's
Mhm.
no point in your journey of you trying to get better. Are you gonna look back and say, man, I wish I was just a lazy piece of shit
Literally.
this entire time because
Yeah.
none of this is cool. Like it's
Literally.
just not going to happen.
Yeah. And two, I think, going even like way back, but like whenever we were talking about like when motivation can be hard is like when what you're doing is like maybe not working out and having to change plans and having
Mhm.
to switch things up. But like you said, like as long as you are putting in your best effort to making the best choice that you can in the moment that aligns to your happiness and aligns to that overall vision of your journey. Like if that needs to go within different paths but staying on the same journey, like I think that's okay too.
Right.
Of course, like I said, discipline is doing things not fun, not easy, but like we want to make our journey as fun and as easy as we can. And
Right.
so if we have to, make some pivots to make that happen, yes, like let's absolutely do it. But keeping an overall guide to this is where I want to go overall. And I just need to write it down sometimes and stick to that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. I think something too that I have found, like along with like what I said of just like always trying to keep myself inspired, always trying to put myself in positions around people and in environments that make me feel inspired to continue to do the work. I think something, and you know, like I said, having a powerful why with everything that you do. And really, I think that just comes down to self-talk of just saying like, okay, bitch, you got to do it. You just got to do it. So along with that, you know, I think something that's really helped me too is figuring out how to reward myself, because essentially whether we make a decision or we not make a decision, the reward for that is either getting something or avoiding something. And so I think figuring out how to activate those like legitimate dopamine chemicals in my brain and my body of like, let's say, like for a really great example, the way that I reward myself literally every week. So Friday is when I do all of my documentation. So I'm literally just sitting in front of my computer for 4 or 5 hours, just doing documents. Like that shit absolutely sucks. Like if you are in any kind of service industry social work where you have to do documentations, like you get it. And so the way that I always reward myself is that morning I'll always go and get like a really yummy like protein shake, something to like, you know, give you some substance. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm going to my favorite coffee shop. I'm getting me a little shot of espresso. I'm getting a little croissant. Like I'm going to treat myself. Of course, like rewards don't have to be super crazy. Of course, I do have longer term rewards of like buying shoes that I like, buying clothes that I like. And, you know, some people might say that that's materialistic, but that is what motivates me. Like, that's what gives me that dopamine hit of like, okay, girl, you don't want to do this documentation, but you know it needs to get done. So for doing a really hard thing that's not fun or easy, give yourself a little reward. Like that is what makes life fun and easy and playful. And so it makes, you know, doing these hard things on our journey that we don't always want to do a little bit more enjoyable.
Right.
That's a really, really big tip that I have of like, figure out what motivates you, whether that's a little treat here and there, whether that's, you know, working really hard for a whole year and treating yourself to a luxurious trip out of town, out of country, like whatever you feel, you know, activates that dopamine, but also just makes it feel worth it, because we don't see those results till way down the line. Like give yourself some little pieces here and there to look forward to of the work that you're doing.
Right. Find out what you love, deprive yourself from it until you actually get the goal.
Yes.
And then now you're like double dipping on ways to develop yourself, because you're working on discipline, and then you're also getting a reward. So the reward system can work if you have the discipline to not engage in that reward outside of your success.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then I think another big tool that I always like to educate people about is like choosing persistency over consistency. And I think that with this tip that I have, take what you like, leave what you don't, because we all have very different personality types. And so, you know, what works for some people might not work for other people. Like you were saying like before, of like, these are the 5 basic things per day that I'm going to do. Like these are the minimum that I'm going to do. I think that that's really, really helpful in the sense of like being consistent, doing the same things every day. But, you know, I think especially if you struggle with any mental health disorders or diagnosis or anything, like your energy levels are constantly changing. You know, the capacity that you have of effort that you can put in towards your personal development, your professional development, your relationships, all that is always changing. So for us to hold ourselves to the same standard every single day, and especially, you know, if we're talking 3-4 year long-term goals, expecting ourselves to put in the same effort every day when we're always fluctuating can be not only unrealistic, but it can also be a little bit harmful in the sense of we kind of set ourselves up for failure. So something that I always want to empower people to think of when it comes to having discipline is choosing to be persistent. So choosing to be flexible with yourself in the way that you get your work done. So like an example of that might be like, say, one thing that you want to do every single day on your fitness journey is like going to the gym every single day. And so, if we want to go to the gym every single day, like that's a good goal for some people, but for some people that's just not realistic. And so maybe the goal is just to get movement in every day. Maybe one day we go to the gym. Maybe one day we do a little YouTube video. Maybe one day we just go on a walk, or we do deep stretching, or we do what you like to do, just like body weight and stuff. So choosing to be more persistent, regardless of where I'm at, I'm still going to continue to have the discipline to put in effort. But that effort doesn't have to be the same exact every single day.
Right.
So I like that tip a lot too. That's really, really helped me have a little bit more compassion for myself. And it's also helped me continue to work towards my goals, because it's not like, oh, I was consistent for a week and I missed one day, like, fuck it. I'm obviously not going to reach this goal, versus saying, I don't have the capacity to go this hard today, but I do have the capacity to do this. So I'm going to do this. And that still got me a step closer to my goals, whatever that was.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
I like that a lot. I think it really does pertain to people that have the mental barriers, I'll say, to be able to just function properly. A lot of us are born differently. We have chemical balances and imbalances in our body that we just can't control. And if you're also not aware, you have no idea it's happening. So it's tough to have that same resiliency when you don't even understand why you're feeling the way you are. So yeah, I think having grace with the journey is important, because, my Monday, for example, today, I was supposed to wake up at 5, woke up at 8, still did everything I was supposed to do, still going to finish everything I needed to do. But I'm not going to get too hard on myself because I didn't wake up at 5. I'm just going to be like, we'll get it done the rest of the days. But, it's like, if you're still getting the things you needed to get done, you shouldn't be upset about the one goal you messed up.
Right. Exactly.
It's okay. You probably needed way more sleep than you needed to. Your body probably needed something you don't even know. So sometimes it's best to just listen to your body and just still have the dedication to get everything done and not let it affect you accordingly, or let it affect you negatively. So no, I like that a lot, is just making sure, or just being aware that you can be creative with the set goals and not so much having to be so meticulous about it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think whenever a lot of people think self-discipline, that sounds like really like rigid and structured, and like A, B, C, D, and like if I don't do these things, it just feels kind of like pressure. And so I think any way that you can boost your motivation and just make your discipline and make your journey fun, but still be committed to it, I think is absolute key. And there's so many ways that you can do that, from having a why, from rewarding yourself, from, creating small wins. So you're not just waiting for that big win. I think are definitely ways that you can keep yourself motivated and keep yourself disciplined in a way that works best for you and your journey.
Right. Absolutely.
I love it. Anything else you want to add before we hop off? I like this topic a lot. Hopefully you guys can take at least one tip and trick to keep yourself motivated, or to make discipline fun and inspiring. Hopefully you guys can take something.
Yeah, I'll say make like you said, inspiring and fun, but be creative with it. There's no set plan, there's no real blueprint. Anyone that says that there is full of shit.
Right.
So
it's all about you.
Listen to what works for you. Just be committed to it and be dedicated to what you want, and you'll get the answers you're looking for, opposed to like you'll get your answers. You'll get your answers. There's no set way to get to places, but you'll get your answers.
Yep. Yes. Well, sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Awaken. We loved talking about this, and we'll see you next week.
See ya. Peace out.
Bye.